Right. Hi, Noah.
Hi, Brooke.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year, almost New Year. For kind of where we decided that with the holidays happening, and thinking of going into the new year, it would be great to just do another what we're kind of calling mini episodes where we just kind of give our thoughts on New Year's resolutions or potentially maybe calling them non-resolutions, more of an intention angle of looking at the new year. And I always love hearing, Noah, your perspective, using Kabbalah as a wonderful way to guide. So with that, I guess I'll ask you kind of what the new year means to you and the background there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I love the new year. I feel that it starts, around December or even around Thanksgiving. So things are starting to slow down. I personally find myself wanting to do less of the busy external distractions and more of the internal work. And I find that the new year in particular is a really fruitful opportunity to deepen our introspection. There is this eternal light that is within each and every one of us that transcends our ego, which we all have one, that is around us and within us. And this constant battle between being pulled and pushed to so many directions allows us to even look at the new year in a more appreciative way. So the start of the new year is always such an ideal time, I find, to access this eternal light that's within us, which represents awareness. And in order to call on this eternal light and awareness, we have to go within to find a new intention as we crowd out the old that no longer serves us. There's in Kabbalah and in Judaism, there is a practice that we do every year before the new year. It's the Hebrew New Year. It's a little bit different, but same idea. But that practice is called teshuvah or tshuva in Hebrew, which means returning to the source and returning to our true awareness. It's a chance of us, it's a chance for us to let go of any mistakes from the past and reconnect to our new souls. So traditionally, the tshuva period is a 40-day practice of self-reflection that we literally sit down and go back in time visually and try to remember incidents or scenarios that we could have handled that particular scenario better. And we try to put us back in that time and close that void and have a imaginary resolution that is different than the one that we had in the past. And this is how we close the voids of doing something negative and replacing it with doing something positive. And by going within, we reconnect with our true nature. We have the opportunity to ask ourselves, what is my heart's purpose? What do I want? What do I love? What do I desire? So these are, this is just one tool that allows me to really appreciate the year that I had and really look forward to the year that we're about to have.
I love that. I can see how that is super powerful in the kind of rewriting or looking at what, could have been done differently, because whenever, you start studying about subconscious programming and all of the stuff that we have kind of running, we tend to get ourselves stuck in loops or patterns where we're not really conscious of it, but on an unconscious level, we are kind of just running on these programs. And I think that being able to take a look back at, what didn't go maybe the way that we had hoped, and not only just looking at it but really breaking down what could have, what could have been done instead, or what could have been said. Or it kind of, when you were saying that, it actually reminded me too of like inner child reparenting that I'm
Mm.
very like passionate about. But it's like, okay, what did I need in that moment to and I think it's that same sort of energetics there. So I
Right.
understand that would be super powerful. And I think, like, with so much that, and I don't know, maybe it's because of the attention where I place my attention now, but I feel like in younger years it was all about like resolutions and what are you gonna do, and from looking at that angle, it's a very external way to look at the changes that you want to make. And what I have found to be so much more lasting is when you can go in and recognize the internal pieces of yourself that you want to, make a change or put your energy in a different direction is really, even I think, an even more powerful way to say that. So I think like when you were talking about like the new year being an ideal time to access the light, which essentially is just a representation of awareness. It's so true that like this light is available to us at any time. We can take any moment to tap into that awareness and that intention. But what a beautiful natural time where things are naturally slowing down. You have a natural ending and a beginning from from one year to the next. It really is such, you can kind of harness that power of that time to really look within and say, where do I want to place my intention? And where your intention goes, the energy flows. And that essentially is just that awareness there. So to me, that's so much more a powerful way to look at moving into the new year.
That's so true. And I remember I used to get mad before having my own family. I used to get kind of frustrated with how things really have slowed down. And even during the 2 weeks leading to the new year, it wherever I lived, it seemed like it became a ghost town. Like there's no one, there's no distractions. And I was such a go, go, go type of, woman from the get-go. So I was like, I need to do more. But it really forced me to slow down. Everybody's with their families or on vacation, taking their time. So it really has put a cap on what I want to do at that time, because like you said, nature is slowing down, everything is slowing down, everything is going a bit more intrinsically. But now having my own family, I feel like it's such a blessing to be able to slow down and to be able to not have the distractions that we normally have year long.
Yes. Yeah. And that's such a wonderful way to call it. It's distractions,
Yeah.
really. And and in a similar sense with me, like looking back, I I felt like the new year, I needed to have like I wanted to make sure I was doing something really cool at midnight, or like what, that was going to be what sets my intention for the year, is like I need, like let's make sure we're really like out having a fun time. But I I realized, so I after a couple years of just feeling completely deflated the next day and realizing that, spending time like at a bar or even at like a party where it just wasn't like as aligning to me. It was finally, I decided that one new year I was going to just stay home by myself. And I actually picked up a copy of Danielle Laporte's Desire Map, and I worked through the worksheets and I meditated. And it was really in doing that where, and I didn't even stay up until midnight. It doesn't really matter if you're actually calling in the next day, and somewhere in the world it probably
Yeah.
isn't, or it is if you're on the behind of that. So to me, I just felt like once I did that, I felt energy shift immediately. Like there's so much that began happening in my life after doing that. And it really made it so clear to me how powerful that is, that like that really there's so many distractions, and it's the work and the stillness that you can come with, with just yourself, and really moving inward, that is going to bring forth the energy of where you really want to create that intention in your life and those changes.
Absolutely, absolutely true. I remember living in New York. So one time I made it to, the big event that they have there, only one time. And then the following year I just fell asleep and I was like, it feels so much better to fall asleep than to do that, what everybody else is doing. And even now, having my own family, we celebrate the East Coast, New Year's.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
that's because I don't want to stay up until midnight and say,
No.
"Hey, Happy New Year." That is not that kind of, to me, that beats the purpose of renewal, that new year. I'm not going to start it tired or drunk or whatever hasn't benefited me in the past, or now I realize that it hasn't really benefited me. So for me, even from, as you know, Brooke, because we're both yoga instructors, from a yogic perspective, the ritual every ritual that we do affects the subtle body, the energetic area where the dreams and the chakra system reside in our beings. And pujas, as we call it in yoga, Ayurveda, or rituals, they change our consciousness on a subtle level, which then shifts our energy. So that's what I believe that has happened. My energy has shifted because of my new awareness. And this energetic shift can then um, in return produce a powerful change in our choices that leads to a powerful change in our physical beings, our physical bodies, and in our world around us. So in puja, we focus our attention on an object of devotion of some sort, a symbol that resonates with us. So for me, it's always like a combination of letters that are almost like they're God's names in 72 different ways. So I like combining numerology and letters of God. And the fact that symbolism is mostly missing from modern life, it could be potentially one reason why so many of us are drawn to this age-old practices like shamanism and Kabbalah and yoga, because these practices are really filled with rituals, not religious rituals, but intrinsic rituals that reflect our longings, our inner desire for transformation. Even with all our technological capacities and everything that we've seen, especially in the last few years, many people still feel really, really disconnected from their deepest selves. And I think that's why you find everyone in Times Square at midnight being together. There's a sense of belonging to other people, other energy, but most of the times this energy will come from within if you take the time to do that intrinsic ritual or cleansing that will connect us to our innermost being, not just a moment in time. And that will give us the comfort and the support that we need during these times of transition, such as the new year.
Yeah. I had never thought of that, but that's so true, that there's like potentially just this innate desire for us to be with other people when we're kind of doing a transition. And so that, yeah, I had never thought about that before, but that's so true. And it's not like that can be a bad way to spend
No,
New Year. If you want to spend, I mean, and it's wonderful, especially if you're surrounded by a lot of people that you love and that bring you joy. But it's more just, I think, like bringing that intention of it not being there as a distraction, but as a way to really to move into the new year in a way that you want to. But that's so,
exactly.
yeah. And then with the rituals, I think that's so true that you see this like resurgence of looking almost backwards. I mean, so much that even what we talk about is like from ancient things that have been, known. Like I feel like I'm rediscovering so much of the Bible, like that I've
Mm-hmm.
just told you of, like, wow, there's a lot of wisdom here. And I do think it's that we've felt so disconnected, and in so many ways that technology is and can be so connective, but at the same time it's not in a true sense in a lot of the ways that we're craving for connection, and we're craving for something real, and that, you know being able to connect with a higher source, a higher power is, and by discovering these ancient practices and ancient rituals, we're actually kind of uncovering the realness of them, and where and even, you know, some of these religious rituals at one point they probably did serve more of that purpose, but they've just been so washed over and like that they don't hold meaning. So it's kind of what I know, you know, I forget what we talk about on different podcast episodes, but I know we brought this up before, where it's like the ritual is fine. Like well, it was the Christmas episode actually, but talking about, you know, that rituals and traditions are wonderful if they give you meaning and they give you a sense of purpose. But if they're just kind of there to do and you're not connecting in, then what is the sense of doing it? So yeah.
So true. Yeah, we talked about traditions that should be questioned and be
Right.
asked again from a different season in your life. Is it serving me the way that I thought it did or the way that it did before? Like, where am I at in my life? Do I really need it, or can I change it up a little bit?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's keeping that kind of in mind. And you can apply that to the new year as well. Like what is serving me as I move to these newer seasons of life and making these transitions to a new year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's interesting to see, though, cosmically speaking, there isn't just one new year. There are, in fact, 4 new years. Every year, there are 4 new years. There's a new year for the months, which we call new moons, that we personally celebrate. It's a cosmic opening where you can get a lot of energy once you connect to it. So there's a new moon. There's a new year for animals. There's new year for people. According to Judaism, it's around Rosh Hashanah, so it's actually around September, but this will count as well because it's the Gregorian New Year. And you have New Year for the trees, where the trees get renewed, and that we call that a Tu B'Shvat. So we actually have a celebration for the trees and their process of their new year. So we also understand that time also intersects with 4 worlds that are existing simultaneously. So it's a crazy concept, but bear with me. So these worlds have parallels in the elements. So we know we have 4 elements. We have the earth, water, air, and fire. We also have 4 levels of our soul that is called nefesh, ruach, neshama, and yechida, 4 levels of our soul. And in the divine nature, God or divinity, there are 4 letters in that powerful source's name, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Jehovah. So, and during the Tu B'Shvat, which is the New Year for the trees, we actually drink 4 cups in order to symbolize that connection to that renewal. And by that, we tap these worlds and that life force that is flowing through that cup into us internally.
Oh,
Isn't it
wow.
interesting?
Yeah. Oh, we could do a whole episode just
Yeah.
learning on that. But yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah. I think like I had known that I had never heard it laid out like that, just the 4 New Years like that. Are the trees, is that springtime?
Once it's during Tu B'Shvat. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I love that. Like that there's so much that like with the ancient Jewish practices that's so tied into nature and
Yeah.
like the true, you know, cosmic connection of it all. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And the new moons and like the energy of the moons, that is something. And I haven't really sat down to think of it, but I'm now like kind of thinking this now, that for the next year, I really want to maybe make it an intention to tap more into the new moon energy, you know, and the releasing
Mm-hmm.
whenever there is a new moon, and like bringing in new energies, because that is so true. It's like you have these times that are just natural kind of energetic portals,
Right.
and really there's one available at the start of every month, that cycle.
Yeah.
um
And isn't it interesting that we as women are connected to that?
yes. Oh
This
yeah.
new cycle within us. So we are
Yeah.
innately more connected to it.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. Without us even realizing how
Mhm.
connected into it we are. And that we can, that just gives us kind of that outlet into recognizing that power, I think is like, yeah. And syncing up with that. Yeah. So, so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many moon rituals. Even uh, shamanism talks about going outside and leaving a crystal or a glass of water and let that moon take
Mhm.
over and energize you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah. I've
interesting.
heard. Yeah. I like being able to kind of recharge a crystal and get that
Yeah,
energy. Uh,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's another episode idea
Yeah.
just there is being able to, yeah, use the moon energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there
All right.
anything?
I think this concludes our episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That was perfect for like a little episode. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, shall we wish our listeners
Yeah.
happy
Happy New
New
Year.
Year? And we'll see you
Bye,
next time.
everyone.
Bye.